day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's Consumer Studies revision lesson. My name is Lillian Dube, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Right, grade 12, today we are revising on nutrition and the consumer. Right. We want to check on the objectives. What is it that we want to achieve today? We want to understand the questions on the consumer and food and nutrition. And remember to always refer to the examination guidelines that you are provided with. Right. We will start with short questions. Right. Our first one says identify the stages in the fashion cycle for each of the descriptions below. Right. I'll read the first description. Says interest in fashion item is slowly decreasing. Right. Our 1.2 says the fashion item is expensive and available from designers. And our 1.3 says the fashion item is not available in chain stores anymore. And our 1.4 reads the fashion item is mass produced and it's cheaper. Right. I'll give you about 2 minutes to go through this description. Right. Welcome back, learners. We go to the solutions for our questions. So our question was reading, identify the stages in the fashion cycle for each of the descriptions below. Right. Interest in fashion item is slowly decreasing. So our answer is decline. Right. We are on a stage of decline on the fashion cycle. And then our 1.2 says the fashion item is expensive and available from designers. So this is the launch or the beginning, or sometimes we can call it the introduction of a product or of that particular fashion. I'm sure grade 12 you remember about the fashion cycle, right? And then let's go to our next solution. Says 1.3 reads the fashion item is not available in chain stores anymore, and our answer is obsolete. Right? Our 1.4 says the fashion item is mass produced and is cheaper. So our answer is peak. Right. So our fashion cycle, if you remember, or the cycle of a product is something that looks like this. Right. So from the beginning there, we say the introduction. So I'll just write intro. And then this is when we said the product or the fashion item is only available from the designers only. And then from there, we've got a stage which is called rise. This is when people are getting used to the item or the fashion item. And then we go to a stage right at the top of our cycle. This is where we find peak. This is when the fashion item is mass produced and cheaper. Mass production means there is lots and lots of that particular item being produced, right? And then from peak, this is the stage where we go to decline. Decline which means there is less sales. Everybody is used to it, to the fashion item. Everybody has bought it, and the sales of that product decline, right? And then the last one is obsolete, right? At the end, the obsolete, right? Obsolete means the fashion or the item is no longer available, right? It means it's no longer available. And then we proceed. Learners, already I've shown you the cycle of an item or the product cycle, right? And then we go on to short questions. Again, it says, identify 3 correct statements below regarding the consumption of non-human energy by household appliances. Right. The statements are: A full refrigerator uses more electricity. Right? And then our B says induction hobs save electricity. Right? And our C says microwave ovens are more energy efficient. Right? We move on to our D part of the question. Says spiral stove plates use more energy to heat than solid stove plate. And our E is tumble dryers are more energy efficient or are energy efficient, right? And our F reads upright freezers use less energy than chest freezers, right? I will also give you 2 minutes, learners, to go through the questions again and answer them. Right? Welcome back, learners. So our answers, we have got A, which says a full refrigerator uses more electricity, right? And then the other answer is microwave ovens are more energy efficient. And our last answer is upright freezers use less energy than chest freezers. Right. We move on with our questions, still on short questions. Our number 3 says, give one word for each of the descriptions below, right? The description reads, the type of ownership where the buyer becomes the legal owner of the entire property. So take note, the question says just one word, right? And then our 3.2 reads, tax paid to the receiver of revenue every time a property changes hands. Right. I'll also give you just 2 minutes to answer the questions. Welcome back, learners. We start with our 3.1 question, the type of ownership where the buyer becomes the legal owner of the entire property. We call it a full title ownership. Right. So there is 2 types of ownership. We've got a full title ownership and what you call a sectional title ownership. A sectional title ownership. Right. When we talk about a full title ownership, we are talking about a standalone house whereby you buy the house, you've got your wall around the house, and you are fully in charge of that house. That's why we call it full title ownership. And then when we talk about sectional title ownership, learners, we are talking about houses like maybe you are staying in a flat, right? What happens in that flat? It means you are sharing a wall with somebody else. You are sharing a wall with your next door neighbor. Then it becomes a sectional title ownership. It means you are only owning a section of your house. Otherwise, you share other areas with the people that live around that area. Another example of sectional title ownership, let's say you are living in a townhouse. Most of the townhouse share the walls, the neighbors share the walls. Again, in a townhouse, there is lawns outside. Some of them come with swimming pools. Maybe some of them come with recreational areas, maybe a soccer field for the children to play, or just a play area for the children that live around there. Right. So people who own sectional title or sectional houses pay certain levies towards the maintenance of that area. So if the entire area needs to be painted, each and every household has to contribute to that. But if it's your own house, if you have a full title ownership, you decide whether you want to paint or you don't want to paint. But with the sectional title, you have to, you are more like forced to paint the house and you contribute to that. Again, in sectional title areas, we've got caretakers, maybe people who maintain the lawn outside. It means you have to pay a certain levy towards the maintenance of that lawn or towards the maintenance of the swimming pool that is available within that area. Right. I'm sure I made myself clear, learners, pertaining full title ownership and sectional title ownership. Full title, we've got a standalone house where you decide, you make your own decision on whether to paint or whether to fix the garden or not. But sectional title means you only own a section of that house. You share the walls with the other person, or maybe if it's not a wall, then it means you share the ground or the lawn around that particular area. Right. And then we go to our question 3.2. Says the tax paid to the receiver of revenue every time a property changes hands. We call it the transfer duty. Right. When we talk about property, we are talking about a house, business premises that somebody is selling, or maybe the land that you own. So you decide to sell your business, you decide to sell your house, or you decide to sell the land or the farm that you own. Then you need to pay, or the person who actually receives pays what we call transfer duty, so that the property is transferred into the buyer's name. Right. Let's move on, learners. The other short question is 3.3, which says insurance that covers losses should the home structure suffer damage as a result of a natural disaster, an accident, flood, or fire. Right. And then our 3.4 reads type of interest where the bond repayment will not be influenced by the changes in the interest rate. Right. I'll also give you another 2 minutes to answer these questions. Right. Welcome back, learners. 3.3. Insurance that covers losses should the home structure suffer damage as a result of a natural disaster, an accident, floods, or fire. The houses that we live in anything can happen to the house, right? So what type of insurance should you pay so that in case there is a fire, then you should be able to be compensated. So we call that a homeowner's insurance. So almost all homeowners are supposed to pay their homeowners insurance, especially if your house is still under bond. If you are still paying your mortgage, then you are forced to pay a homeowner's insurance, right? And then 3.4 says the type of interest where the bond repayment will not be influenced by the changes in the interest rates. And we call that fixed interest rate. So the word fixed means something that does not change. Let me write there, does not change. Right. Remember, interest rates keep changing all the time. They fluctuate, right? So if you decide to take a fixed interest rate, it means if the interest rate goes higher, then yours doesn't change. That's to your advantage. Even if it goes down, still you pay the same amount of interest throughout, right? And then before we move on, I just want to explain interest to you. What is interest? Right? Interest is the money or the amount that is charged when you borrow some money. So you are charged what we call interest, or we can say it is the cost of borrowing money. Once you borrow money from the bank or from any other institution that gives out loans, then you are likely to be charged interest. So you decide which type of interest do you want to pay, right? Let's move on, learners, and then we go to the next revision is on the consumer, right? We go to number 4, which says read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Right, I'm going to read the scenario for you, learners. It reads, Lindy belongs to a group where all members invest in a portion of their salary. Right? To invest is to keep your money aside. Right? Every month and receive a payout at a certain time of the year. With the money that Lindy received, she bought a refrigerator. She was able to pay cash for the refrigerator. Why? Because she had saved money or she had invested her money, right? She was extremely happy as the refrigerator came with a guarantee. Right. Then we go to our questions. 4.1 says, name the group that Lindy belongs to. Right? And 4.2 reads, quote a word from the scenario that indicates that this group is legal or that this group is allowed in the court of law. Right? I'll give you 2 minutes, learners, so that you can answer the question. Right? Welcome back, learners. 4.1 says, name the group that Lindy belongs to. Lindy belongs to a stokvel. I'm sure we have actually defined what a stokvel is in our previous revision lesson. So a stokvel is whereby a group of people contribute to a common fund. We said they sometimes contribute money that they share at the end of the year. Sometimes they contribute money towards buying groceries. They keep buying groceries, and then at the end of the year, come December time, they actually share those groceries. So that group is called a stokvel. And we said a stokvel is legal in South Africa. It is allowed to run a stokvel, right? And then our 4.2 says quote a word from the scenario that indicates that the group is legal. So the word is invest. They invest their money. Sometimes some of these people who run stokvels actually deposit their money into the bank as a group so that the money can earn interest. Right? Let's proceed. We go to our question 4.3 says provide one advantage of paying in cash. Apparently, from the scenario, it says that Lindy paid cash for her refrigerator. Right. So give one advantage of paying in cash. Right? And then 4.4 reads, name the type of tax that Lindy paid when purchasing the refrigerator. Right. Another 2 minutes for you to attempt the question. Welcome back, learners. Firstly, we want to provide one advantage of paying for the refrigerator in cash. Right. Once you pay cash, you may ask for a cash discount. So that's one advantage of people who come carrying cash. You actually tell them that I only have got so much in my pocket. Can I please pay so much? So you can actually ask for a cash discount, right? And then also there is no interest that is charged, right? As long as you are paying in cash, it means there is no interest that is charged on the refrigerator that Lindy bought. Because she bought it in cash, it means she can ask for a discount or that there is no interest charged on the refrigerator. Right. Then we go to 4.4 says, name the type of tax that Lindy paid when purchasing the refrigerator. Right. So our answer is VAT. That is the type of tax that she paid. Again, we have discussed value-added tax in our previous revision lesson. We said value-added tax is an indirect tax that is levied on goods and services. Right? The goods that we mentioned are food and maybe the furniture or other things that we buy, right? In the services, we mentioned the road and the rail services, right? So the road and the rail services are not, or they are excluded from VAT, right? And then we move on. Our 4.5 says explain what a guarantee is. And 4.6 reads, state 3 ways that Lindi can implement to save electricity when using a refrigerator, right? And 4.7 says, suggest the responsibilities for Lindi to implement after she bought the refrigerator, right? Another 2 minutes, Leonard, for you to attempt the questions. Welcome back, Lena. Our 4.5 reads, explain what a guarantee is. Every time when we buy bigger items from the shops, we usually ask for a guarantee in case the item breaks down, in case the refrigerator gets to Lindy's home and it doesn't work. So what she's supposed to do is to ask for a guarantee that if the store doesn't give her anything as guarantee, right? So a guarantee is an assurance that a product will remain in working conditions for a particular length of time. So when they give you guarantee, they would say, this refrigerator has got 3-year guarantee or 3 years of guarantee or 3-year warranty, which means if it breaks down before the 3 years, then you can go back to the shop, ask for a refund or claim another fridge, or they can have it repaired, right? A guarantee is a promise from the manufacturer that they will sort out any problems with a product or services within a specific fixed period of time. So if the refrigerator comes with a 3-year guarantee and then it breaks down after 3 years, you can go back to the shop and they'll tell you the guarantee has expired. Right. And then we go on to our 4.6, reads, state 3 ways that Lindi can implement to save electricity when using the refrigerator. Right. And our answer is, always have space behind the fridge where the air can circulate for better efficiency. For the fridge to function efficiently, there has to be space behind the fridge and the wall that you are placing your fridge. It doesn't have to be exactly on the wall, but you must leave some space behind the fridge so that there is free circulation of air and the fridge could function properly. Right. A full fridge uses less energy than an empty one. So remember, our question says the ways that Lindi can implement to save electricity. So our main aim here is for Lindi to do what? To save electricity. So one of the answers reads, a full fridge uses less energy than an empty one, right? And then our next answer says, avoid opening the fridge door too often. If we keep opening and closing the fridge, it means we are allowing the warm air outside or in the environment to go into the fridge. Then it means the fridge has to use more energy so that it regains the temperature that is supposed to be inside the fridge, thereby using more electricity, right? And then do not place the refrigerator near the stove. What happens on the stove? We do our cooking on the stove. So it means there is heat next to the what? To the refrigerator. Again, the refrigerator has to use more and more energy so that it maintains its temperature. Right? Let's move on, learners. We go on again to the solution for 4.7. 4.7 reads, suggests the responsibilities for Lindy to implement after she bought the refrigerator. What is it that she's supposed to do when or after she has bought the refrigerator or upon receiving the refrigerator? So Lindy has to make sure the manufacturer included the instruction manual. Why do you need an instruction manual? So that you know how to use your refrigerator, how to connect, and how to do all the other things. What I understand with a refrigerator is that after it has been transported, it's in a van, it's been shaking, so it means the gas has been shaken inside the fridge. You have to leave it before you plug it. Just leave it for an hour or so that the gas settles, and then you can plug it and switch it on. So all those things, you find them in a manual that comes with the refrigerator, right? And the next one says, inspect the appliance carefully at delivery, right? In case something happened along the way during delivery, then you should be able to see that, no, but this refrigerator has got a dent on it and I am not taking it. But once you complain after the delivery has been done, then they would say, it's you who dented the fridge. So always inspect your appliances carefully at delivery, right? And then the next point says, read the instruction manual carefully so that you don't make any mistakes in terms of using the appliance, and then the guarantee will not work on it, right? And then make sure you keep the receipt and the guarantee safe. So a receipt is proof of payment. It's proof that you paid for the refrigerator and the refrigerator is yours. And when you decide to go back to the shop and lay a complaint, you must always produce the receipt. So without the receipt, then you cannot go back to the shop and complain about your appliance, because they need proof that you bought the what? The fridge from them. Right? We go on to more revision questions. Right, we go to number 5, says, read the scenario below and identify the type of contract, that's A, and B, the exemption clause stipulated in the contract. Right, learners, I'm going to read the scenario for you. It says, Mr. Benson took out a cell phone contract with a local service provider. From the beginning, the cell phone did not work properly. He immediately returned the cell phone to the service provider. Right? The service provider indicated that he should fix the cell phone himself because it has a no return policy. As it is stated in the contract that Mr. Benson signed. Right? Then we want to answer A and B. Right? Then let's go to our answers for A and B. So I'll give you just 1 minute. These ones are shorter. The type of contract and the exemption clause stipulated in the contract. Welcome back, learners. We go to the solutions for the scenario. We answer A. We say the type of a contract is a cell phone contract. Right. And then B, the exemption clause. I'll first explain an exemption clause. Right? An exemption clause exonerates or it clears the other party of any liability. It exonerates or it clears the other party of any liability. So the example here of an exemption clause is no return policy. Sometimes when we buy items, we are so excited, we don't even read the exemption clauses. Some of them will be written on the walls that this shop does not refund cash. So after the excitement and you discover the item that you have bought doesn't work, then when you go back to the shop, you find it's written in big bold letters, no cash returns. Right? So an exemption clause actually clears the other party. They don't want to take any liability. So as consumers, we should learn to read and understand the contracts. In this case, Mr. Benson did not even read the contract that he signed, which had an exemption clause which says no return policy. So the cell phone had a fault and he could not return it so that the shop can repay it. So it was his own liability. Right. In the last lesson, I also gave you another example of an exemption clause could be park at your own risk. You find a parking written, park at your own risk. That's another exemption clause. Right. So always take note of exemption clauses. Right. Let's move on to the next questions from the scenario. 5.2 reads, name the following scams. Right. We have got 5.2.1. Scam A reads, a scam where something needs to be bought before work can begin. Right? And scam 5.2.2, which is scam B, reads, a scam which uses your personal information to open new accounts in your name. Right. Just a minute to answer those two. Welcome back, learners. We go to our answers. Scam A is a scam where something that needs to be bought before work can begin. We call that work from home opportunities. So they're called work from home opportunities scam, right? There are people who always advertise products and they would actually say you need to make a payment first before you receive that product. And then some of them are legit, some of them are scams. So we don't even know. So you discover that after having made a payment, that product that you have bought doesn't come to you or it's never delivered to you. Then you discover later that you have been scammed. right? And then 5.2 reads a scam which uses your personal information to open new accounts in your name, right? So we call this identity theft, or we call it phishing. This is when they steal your ID through sending you an email, right? Whereby you are supposed to do what? To update your banking details. And the banks always warn us that they will never send us emails so that we can update our personal details. So it's called identity theft, or sometimes we call it phishing. Right, let's go on to the next question. It says, state one way in which South African consumers can use water responsibly regarding the following household equipment. Right? 5.3.1, we always use taps at home for our water. We use toilets at home. We use geysers. And we have got plants in the backyard, or in our backyards, or in our gardens. Right, so the question says, state one way in which consumers can use water responsibly. So our main word here is the use of water responsibly, right? Using a tape, using the toilet, using the geyser, and using plants. Like we said in our previous revision lesson, always read and understand the question. Right, I'll give you just 2 minutes to answer the questions. Right, welcome back, learners. So we'll start with 5.3.1, which is taps. How do we save water, or how can we use water responsibly when we are using taps at home? Make sure the taps are not dripping, right? Always fix any leak. So if a tap is leaking, then make sure you attend to the leak immediately. Sometimes taps do not leak during the day because the taps are being used, the whole household is busy using water, so you might not even notice that a tap is leaking. So if it's a tap that is outside, you must look for green spots in the garden, as this could be an indication that there is a leak on the tap, right? Sometimes you can use what we call tap aerators. They actually reduce the flow of water, thereby saving water in the home, right? And then the other one is you must turn off the water when you are brushing our teeth, right? We usually use taps when we brush our teeth, but it is more advisable to maybe use a tumbler when you are brushing your teeth instead of opening or brushing on a running tap. Thereby, we can be able to be responsible citizens and save our water. Right. The next one is toilets, right? We must reduce the amount of water that collects in the cistern. Some people actually put a brick in the cistern so that it doesn't flush a lot of water, right? And then we must also make sure that the toilet does not have a leak. And then the other things that we can do is you can change your toilet and use what we call a dual flush system, whereby when you just pee, you can use less water, the smaller button, and then the other button for the other stuff, right? And sometimes again, you can do what we call half flushing. Just do not pull the handle too much to the bottom. Just half push it, and then only a small amount of water will come out, thereby saving our water and becoming responsible citizens. Right. And then geysers, how do we save water when using a geyser? Right. You can use the water from a geyser overflow pipe to water the garden. If you notice, in some houses there is a pipe whereby the water always drops or it leaks out of the geyser. We call it a geyser overflow pipe. So you can put a bucket underneath there and then use that water to water your garden, thereby saving water in the home. Right. And then the other one is on plants, right? We are advised to plant indigenous plants and water-wise plants that require less water. And sometimes with the plants, we can use what we call gray water. Gray water is the water that comes from the washing machine or the water that we use for bathing. You can use that water to water your plants, thereby saving water in the home again. Right. We proceed, learners. We go on again on our revision. Question 6 reads, identify the type of energy illustrated in the picture below. Right? And our 6.1 reads, state 3 advantages of this type of energy. Right. I'll give you just 2 minutes again to answer question 6 and 6.1. Right? Welcome back, learners. So the energy that is illustrated on the picture is solar energy. I'm sure we all know about solar energy, right? We've seen a solar panel maybe somewhere or somehow we know about solar energy, right? And then 6.1 reads, state 3 advantages of this type of energy. Right. Solar does not cause pollution, right? It does not pollute our environment. There is no smoke or anything that comes out of solar. So it does not cause any pollution, right? Sometimes solar provides power when electricity fails, right? If we don't have electricity, then we can use our solar panels to get the electricity, right? It also cuts the electrical bill, right? Instead of paying the electrical bill, you can install solar energy, then it will go on and on. Although the installation part could come very expensive, but once installed, then it will go on and on, right? And then it is more economical, or it comes much cheaper, right? And then we go on to our next question, which is 2.7 says, identify the type of pollution illustrated in the picture below, right? And 2.7.1 reads, identify 3 causes of the type of pollution in the picture. Right, I'll also give you about 2 minutes again for us to answer the question. Welcome back, learners. The question was, we're supposed to identify the type of pollution which was illustrated in the picture. So this kind of pollution is called water pollution. Right. And our 2.7.1 says identify the causes of this type of pollution in the picture. So basically we are saying what causes water pollution or what pollutes our water. Right. The first one is oil spills. Sometimes oil is spilled into the water. We have got ships that carry oil, or some small other maybe boats that are on the sea can actually be leaking of oil. So oil spills can actually pollute our water. And then the second one is sewage pipes, right? So if there is a best sewage pipe, it can actually leak into the drinking water, thereby contaminating our water, right? And then litter. We are always advised to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So do not just throw litter anyway, otherwise it will pollute our water. So always throw your litter responsibly by reducing, reusing, and recycling. Right. Then we go to our next question, says, name 4 initiatives that municipalities could introduce to communities to lessen the carbon footprint and make the environment sustainable. Right. I'll also give you a few minutes again to go through this question. Right, welcome back, learners. So what is the municipality expected to do? Right, so the municipality is responsible for lessening the carbon footprint and make our environment sustainable. Right, so what should the municipalities do to make our environment sustainable? Right, so they are supposed to recycle plastics. They are also supposed to recycle paper, glass, and metal. So what we are saying is communities can actually introduce recycling areas within their community. How does that help the community? People who do not work around that community will actually pick up the litter around to send it to the recycling areas, and thereby they also make income, right? I'm sure we have seen them. They go around picking the litter and sending it for recycling. That helps our environment to be sustainable, right? Again, the municipality can actually introduce fines for littering. Somebody is driving along the freeway or somewhere, they just drink a bottle of water or a bottle of cool drink, and then they just throw it through the window, thereby increasing the carbon footprint. So the municipality should fine the people who litter. Once the municipality introduce fines, then people will be afraid to part with their money or to break the law, right? And also municipalities should attend immediately to water leaks so that we can save our water and keep our environment sustainable, right? And they should also plant trees and flowers alongside the roads, right? So these are our answers to question 8, right? We move on to nutrition. Now we go on to nutrition. That's our number 9. Read the extract below and answer the questions that follow. Right. I'll read the extract. Learners, it says osteoporosis is a disease that thins and weakens the bone to the point that they become fragile and break easily. This condition is mostly seen in menopausal women. Right. And then our question 9.1 says, explain the causes of osteoporosis and why it is mostly in menopausal women. So our question is focusing on osteoporosis and what? And postmenopausal women. So always read and understand the question. Right. I'll give you just 2 minutes to answer the question. Welcome back, learners. Our question says, explain the causes of osteoporosis and why it is mostly seen in postmenopausal women. Right. Postmenopausal means these ones no longer go for their menses, or they are no longer menstruating. They are on the menopause stage. So we call it postmenopausal. Right. So when we talk about osteoporosis, we have to think of osteoporosis as a deficiency disease and what causes osteoporosis, right? We said in our last revision that it is caused by lack of calcium within the ears. Lack of calcium in the diet causes osteoporosis, right? So calcium is responsible for building strong bones, right? So once you have the deficiency of calcium in the diet, which is meant to build strong bones, then you are likely to suffer from osteoporosis, right? So the answer says at the age of 30, calcium starts to be lost and is not replaced. Again, we said calcium is easily lost than replaced in the body. Right. So eventually, continual loss of bone mass can lead to osteoporosis. Right. And then the other part of our answer says estrogen helps to conserve bone mineral density. So after menopause, there is less estrogen in a woman's body, and the loss of bone density speeds up. Right. So estrogen is a female reproductive hormone. It's a reproductive hormone. So once they no longer reproduce, it means they are on their postmenopausal stage, which means there is less estrogen in the body, and thereby weakening or speeding up the loss of bone density. But we move on. Again, still on nutrition, we want to answer 9.2, which reads, which food should be consumed throughout the life cycle to prevent or manage osteoporosis? Right. So I want you to answer 9.2. But before we do that, we have got two pictures there. This one shows a normal bone, and then this one shows a bone with osteoporosis. Remember, we said when somebody has got osteoporosis, then their bone loses its density. We said the word porosis means a porous bone, a porous. Something that is porous is something that has got holes in it. Apparently, the bone comes with holes, but they are very small. And then when osteoporosis kicks in, the holes keep becoming bigger and bigger, thereby allowing the bone to be fragile and thin up so that it can fracture or break easily. Right, I'll give you 2 minutes to answer 9.2. Right, welcome back, learners. We go to our solutions. We said which food should be consumed throughout the life cycle to prevent or damage osteoporosis. Right? So our answer is milk and milk products. Right? Milk products, we are looking at cheese, we are looking at ice cream, we are looking at yogurt. So once you consume those foods, then it means you can be able to manage or prevent osteoporosis in the long run. Right? Sometimes you can have some nuts and seeds. We mentioned almonds is one example of the nuts, right? And then we have got green leafy vegetables, right? We've got broccoli, we've got kale, we've got spinach as the green leafy vegetables, right? And then we've got pulses. Pulses are dried beans or dried seeds that we consume, the beans, the peas, the sugar beans, right? They all contain calcium, or they are good sources of calcium, right? Also, fruits are some of the foods that you can consume to increase your calcium levels. Right, we go to the next question is question 10, says read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Right, I'll read the scenario to you. Betha is 32 years old and feels tired most of the time. She has noticed that she is thirsty more often than usual and that she urinates more frequently. She has lost 5 kgs over the last few months. Right. And the question says, identify the disease that Betha is possibly suffering from. And 10.2 says, briefly describe this condition that Betha has. Right? I'll give you 2 minutes. Again, learners, please attempt the 2 questions. Right, welcome back, learners. Answer 10.1 says, identify the disease that Betha is possibly suffering from. So Betha suffers from diabetes, right? We have discussed diabetes before together, and I'm sure you still remember that. Right. So 10.2 says, briefly describe this condition that Betha is suffering from. So we are supposed to describe diabetes. Right. So diabetes is a chronic disease in which glucose levels are abnormally high because the blood cannot control it properly, right? Diabetes occurs when beta cells in the pancreas do not produce insulin, or insulin is produced but the body does not use insulin effectively. Right. So when we're discussing diabetes, we talked about glucose levels, right? We have learned about hyperglycemia or hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. We said the high level means hyperglycemia and low levels means hypoglycemia. Right. And then we proceed, learners. Still on 10.3 says select the food from the list that follows that would be the best choice for a mid-morning snack for Betha, and give reasons for your choice, right? Remember, Betha has got diabetes, or Betha is suffering from diabetes. Judging from the symptoms that we have read from the scenario says Betha is always thirsty, she urinates all the time, which means those are some of the symptoms of people with diabetes. And we read that she is always tired and she has actually lost 5 kgs, right? So we are now we want to choose from the snacks that Betha can have since she has diabetes. So we want to choose the best choice for Betha as a diabetic patient. Right. So the first one is bran muffins with low-fat cheese. And then the second one is Provita with low-fat cheese. And the third one is rye bread with low-fat cheese. And our fourth one is white bread with low-fat cheese. Right. Just 1 minute for you to choose the best snack. Right? Welcome back, learners. So the best snack for Betha is Provita with low-fat cheese. Why? Because the question says give reasons for your choice. So we have chosen Provita with low-fat cheese. And our reason is it has low GI and will release glucose slowly into the bloodstream. So low GI means it has low glycemic index. That is a measure that is used on how quickly food can release the glucose, or how slowly the food can release glucose into the bloodstream. Right? And then we move on to our summary of the revision lesson. It says diabetes is a chronic disease whereby the body is unable to use insulin it makes, or insulin is needed to turn sugar into energy. And osteoporosis causes bones to weaken and become brittle. And oil spills, sewage, and litter are responsible for water pollution. And solar is a renewable source of energy and is environmentally friendly. Right. we have come to the end of our revision lesson. Thank you for watching, learners. I'll see you in the next lesson.